She was a powerful black CEO with a confirmed reservation, but the restaurant staff looked her in the eye and told her the table was gone. What she did next sparked a national reckoning, shut down businesses, and exposed secrets no one was ready for. You think you know how this ends? Think again. The rain had just stopped when Angela Cross stepped out of her black SUV. Her heels clicked sharply against the cobblestone driveway. The downtown steakhouse loomed ahead, modern, sleek, and arrogant in its glass and steel. She was early, but she had a reservation. A booth, by the window. Her assistant had confirmed it twice. Inside, jazz played low under the buzz of conversation. Crystal lights shimmered overhead, casting golden halos on the dark wooden floor. Angela walked in with the confidence of someone who had earned it. A young hostess glanced up, her smile freezing when she saw Angela. "Can I help you?" the hostess asked, tone clipped and eyes sliding past her. Angela gave her name. She mentioned the reservation, the booth by the window. The hostess glanced at the screen, then looked back. "I am sorry, but that table is not available anymore," she said flatly. Angela raised an eyebrow. "It was confirmed." "I am sure it was," the hostess replied, eyes drifting toward a white couple seated at the window booth. Angela's gaze followed. The couple laughed, sipping cocktails, menus unopened. They had just arrived. "Perhaps we can seat you at the bar," the hostess offered, already turning. The air thickened around Angela. Her breath slowed. The scent of grilled steak and aged wine did nothing to cover the rot of familiarity. This was not the first time. But this time, it felt different. Angela smiled. It was not warm. It was precise. Sharp. She turned to leave. Not in anger. In calculation. Back in her SUV, she made one call. To her lawyer. Then another. To her PR team. The next morning, her story was everywhere. Not loud. Not desperate. Just facts. Name. Time. Location. Receipts. The steakhouse issued a bland apology, the kind that tastes like cold toast. But Angela was not done. 3 days later, the staff showed up to lock doors, a notice on the window, health inspection, multiple violations, pending lawsuit. The owner's name leaked online, his email, his other business holdings. By the end of the week, the steakhouse was empty, not just of customers, of meaning, of power. Angela did not smile. She had simply reminded them who she was, and that being seen is not the same as being respected. She passed the building again weeks later. A for lease sign hung crooked in the window. She rolled down her window, took one last look, and drove on. Angela drove on. The sky had turned a murky shade of gray. Clouds hung heavy, almost too close, like the weight of something unsaid. She turned on the radio. Static. Then silence, then a voice, hers, the interview from the night before, playing again, soft measured, fierce. She listened, not for validation, but to remember the tone, the moment her story stopped being just hers. That steakhouse had been just the beginning. She had not planned to start a movement, but the world had other ideas. Emails flooded in, hundreds, then thousands. Black women, brown men, Sikh fathers, hijabi mothers, trans professionals. Each had a story. Each one felt familiar. Each one reopened something she thought had healed. Angela started reading them at night, alone, wrapped in a silk robe, glass of wine untouched beside her. The words felt like whispers, some like screams. They spoke of ignored reservations, of lowered voices, of eyes that never met theirs. She could smell the cold metal of silence in their stories. She could hear the clink of polished cutlery behind their dignity. Angela called her team again. "Book a venue," she said. "No press. Not yet." 2 weeks later, she stood under dim lights in a converted warehouse. No stage. No microphones. Just people. Just truth. They came with trembling hands, worn faces, press suits, wrinkled napkins with scribbled notes. One by one, they stood and spoke. Angela listened. Each word branded itself across her ribs. A quiet fire began to grow. The next day, the real work began. She launched a new project. It had no logo, no slogan, just a mission, visibility, documentation, accountability. The platform let people report incidents, upload receipts, names, faces, footage. It was simple and devastating. A month later, it went viral. Some called her dangerous. Some called her brave. She ignored both. One night, she came home to find her front gate ajar. Strange. Her assistant always locked it. She stepped out of the car. Quietly, deliberately, the wind moved the trees just enough to rattle her nerves. She walked slowly to the front door. A white envelope sat on the welcome mat. No name, no stamp, just her address. Typed, she picked it up. It felt light, too light. She opened it. 3 words printed neatly. Watch your back. Angela froze. The silence wrapped around her like a shroud. Her eyes scanned the street. No cars. No footsteps. Just the whisper of leaves. She walked inside, locked the door, double-bolted it. Then she called Marcus, head of her security team. Round-the-clock detail, she said. He did not ask why. By morning, she was back at her desk. Eyes sharp, posture steel. She made no mention of the note. Not to her team, not to the press. She would not give them the satisfaction. Instead, she pressed forward. The platform gained sponsors. Lawyers joined the cause. Former employees from luxury restaurants offered testimony. Patterns emerged. The same faces, the same owners, the same practices. Angela compiled everything. She printed the documents herself, bound them, marked every page. Then she walked into the Attorney General's office. She said nothing. She just handed them the binder. 3 days later, an investigation launched. The steakhouse owners who had once laughed at her behind closed doors were now silent. Lawyers scrambled. PR firms spun. Angela watched. She was not vengeful. She was focused. One night, she attended a gala. Black tie, high profile, old money. She walked in wearing crimson, a shade too bold for the room. She made it look regal. Eyes turned. Whispers followed. One man approached. Late 50s. Slick hair. Fake smile. I suppose this is your moment, he said. Angela tilted her head. My moment? He chuckled. All this noise. All this awareness. Angela looked him dead in the eye. This is not a moment, she said. This is a mirror. He blinked, then turned away. Later that evening, she stood alone on the balcony. City lights flickered like scattered stars. The wind carried faint traces of gardenia. She thought of the first time she was denied a seat. She had been 16. A diner, outside Atlanta. They told her there were no tables. Even though half the room was empty, she had left in tears. Now she left paper trails. Weeks passed. More businesses were exposed. Patterns shifted. Suddenly, restaurants had diversity statements, mandatory training. But Angela knew better. Cosmetics did not change the bones of a building. Then one morning, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Is this Angela Cross? Yes. This is Detective Harris. We need to speak. In person. Angela's fingers tightened around the phone. When? Now. At the precinct. They handed her a photograph. Grainy. Black and white. It showed a man. Mid-30s. Beard. Cap pulled low. He was seen near your property. Twice, the detective said. We believe he is connected to the letter. Angela leaned in. Her throat dry. The photo stirred something. Not recognition. Something colder. Do you have a name? The detective nodded. Gregory Lane. Angela's face darkened. Gregory Lane had been the former co-owner of that steakhouse. The same one that lost everything. I want protection increased, she said. Done. That night, Angela sat alone in her study. The house was silent. Even the clock seemed afraid to tick. She opened her laptop, typed in his name. Searches revealed a history. Bankruptcy. Pending lawsuits. A restraining order from an ex-partner. She clicked through images, paused. One photo showed him standing outside a new restaurant. Opening soon. Angela stared. Her mind began turning again. She opened a new document, started typing. Names, addresses, incidents. This was bigger than her story. Bigger than one restaurant. This was systemic. A tap on the window made her jump. She turned. Nothing. Just a tree branch. She exhaled. Just wind. Still, she rose, closed the curtains, set the alarm, then sat back down, back to the keyboard, back to the mission. Angela was no longer angry. She was awake, and she knew the fight had just begun. Angela was no longer angry. She was awake, and she knew the fight had just begun. She stayed up that night, eyes stinging from hours without blinking. Her fingers typed until the keys blurred beneath them. At 3:47 a.m., she pressed save. The document was titled simply, Evidence Draft 1. She leaned back. The chair creaked beneath her. Her back ached, but her pulse stayed sharp. On the desk beside her, a single photograph sat face down. She had not looked at it in years. She flipped it over to IT. Showed her mother, standing in front of a diner, tall, proud, tired. Angela was just a child in the photo. She remembered that day. They were denied service. She did not understand why. Not then, but she remembered the way her mother gripped her hand. Firm, unshaking, like a promise. Angela took the photo and slipped it into her planner, close to her chest. She would carry it the next day. The next day came slowly. Heavy clouds loomed again, the sky the color of bruised metal. Angela met her legal team at the firm's high-rise downtown. The building buzzed with quiet tension. Security had doubled. The front desk greeted her with new eyes, nervous ones. Inside the conference room, folders were stacked like bricks, walls built of paper and rage. Gregory Lane is retained counsel, said Janelle, her lead attorney. Angela nodded. No surprise. He is pushing the narrative that you targeted his business out of personal vendetta. Janelle continued. Angela scoffed. He destroyed himself. I just turned on the light. They reviewed the case files, video footage, testimonies, timeline of Gregory's threats. Do you want to press charges? Janelle asked. Angela paused. She looked out the window. City lights blinked beneath the storm. Yes, she said, clear, unflinching. That night, she returned home and found a box on her doorstep. NO address, NO tape, just a box. She stood for several seconds, listening. Her hand hovered over her phone. She dialed Marcus. He arrived in minutes, gun holstered, eyes scanning. Angela stepped back as he examined the box. He opened it slowly. Inside, a white napkin, folded, plain, but stained with something dark. Angela did not speak. She did not have to. She knew what it meant. It was the same kind of napkin from the steakhouse. Marcus photographed everything. Filed a report. Angela watched in silence. When he left, she sat down and picked up her planner. She looked at the photo of her mother again. Her throat tightened, but no tears came. She had none left. The next day, the police increased patrols. Her legal team filed the official complaint. The media got wind. Headlines flooded social platforms. Black CEO receives threats after civil rights exposure. Gregory Lane's shadow business revealed. Angela Cross will not back down. Protesters gathered. First a dozen, then 100, then thousands. They marched outside City Hall, signs painted in midnight ink. Their voices echoed through the skyline. Angela stood in the crowd one afternoon, hidden behind sunglasses, wrapped in a coat. She wanted to feel it, not just lead it. Chants rose around her, fists in the air, tears in their eyes. Then something shifted at a crack through the crowd. Screams, panic. A bottle flew. Glass shattered near her feet. Marcus pulled her back. Security closed in. She was ushered away. But her heart stayed there, not on that broken pavement. She knew this was not just a protest. IT was a reckoning. Later, she met with a federal investigator. He wore a grim expression. We found a list, he said. Angela leaned in. A list? He nodded. On Lane's personal drive. Dozens of names, addresses, photographs. Angela's chest constricted. Targets? We believe so, he said. Her name was at the top. They brought her into protective custody. She protested. I cannot vanish, she said. The agent replied, If you vanish, the story does too. She agreed, but only for 72 hours. During that time, her platform server was hacked, files deleted, backups compromised. Her team scrambled, but Angela was prepared. She had hard copies, printed, stored, and more importantly, the people remembered. They started posting their own stories again, point one by one, unprompted, unpaid, unafraid. Angela watched from the safe house. Her eyes welled up, not with sadness, with awe. This was no longer her movement. IT belonged to them now. T.O. everyone who refused to be unseen. The world had tried to silence her. T.O. frightened her. T.O. eraser. But she stood, not just as a CO, not just as a woman, but as a witness. ASA stormed ASA mirror. And the reflection she offered was not polite. That IT was blistering. That IT was loud. IT was true. And it would not fade. Months later, Angela stepped onto a small stage at a university. She wore white, clean, unapologetic. Students filled the hall. Faculty stood in the back. Reporters leaned in. She took the podium, NO notes, NO script, just truth. She spoke of silence, of spaces that were not built for people like her, and how she walked through them anyway. She ended with a single sentence, point one, she had carried for years. My mother never sat at that table. She looked up, but I did. And now, she said, it is time to build new tables, where no one needs to fight for a seat, where no one is denied, where no one is forgotten. The crowd stood, applauding not just her words, but the world she dared to imagine. Angela stepped down, the light warm on her shoulders. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, soft, steady, sure.